Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Kingdom Speak. We have an old friend on the show today, and he is here with the highly controversial discussion about morality. Welcome to Kingdom Speak, Pastor Daniel McKillop.
He's setting you up, Bishop.
He's locked and loaded.
He just doesn't come on the podcast. Now he comes on with these topics that are,
Wow.
I sure hope everyone's ready.
I'm ready.
Oh, it's been a week.
Oh. I was about to prime you.
I gotcha.
I was about to prime you. It's been a week.
Week and a day.
Yeah. Where you been?
It's been a while.
Wow.
Thank God it's Friday.
Good Friday.
Kingdom Speak is out. Oh, we're going to have a good weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Good Friday.
Hey, we got a review. This may be, I don't know. I think this is the first review from Norway we've ever received.
Well, it's probably a response. Remember, you called them out.
Norway. That's right. And they have responded, everyone.
Yeah. Norway heard and responded.
It wasn't a bot. It was a real person listening.
No kidding. Wow.
Listen to this. Hello from Norway. Hello from an apostolic church here in Norway. The Lord is good. Thank you for your wonderful work, great teachings and preachings. Love to listen and learn more about the things of God. It's truly a blessing. Keep it up. That is from Marlena in Norway.
Oh, yeah. Come on.
Thank you very much. All the way from Norway. That's 5 stars on Apple Podcasts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marlena. We appreciate that.
Thank you. She's representing well.
Oh, do I get the same applauses as Marlena from Norway gets?
Look, we're going to ease in.
He's punching already.
Yeah, we're going to
Take the gloves off.
He's punching. Isn't there good fighters that come from Brazil?
Like what it is he started off last year, the first episode, pandemic missionary life.
Yep.
And he told us he's going to help our numbers.
Yep.
Yeah.
And man, he threw us on a trajectory that's still. So we reviewed everything, Bishop, and we're in need of another boost.
Yeah, we're in a slump right now.
We're in need of another boost. So we needed the one, the only Bishop Lambeth.
There they are.
They love
missionary.
There we go. There they go. There they go. The world is applauding right now.
Please, everyone, sit down. Yeah. We need to get on with the podcast.
Keep driving your car.
Yes. We need hands on the wheel here.
Yeah.
Yeah. How you doing, Bishop? We're honored to have you back on Kingdom Speak.
I'm so glad to be back with friends and with your audience. It's a wonderful group of apostolics around the world at Kingdom Speak. That's great. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Crowd faithing has been doing still very well. So
yeah,
people appreciate.
We got comments just this past week actually on that episode. It's still resonating with our listeners. So thank you.
I'm honored. Thank you.
Crowd faithing was a bit, what's the word I'm looking for? Broad in its, audience, and it could be used anywhere. Now this one here, I see what you did. You set people up, you open the door with this generalized topic, and now that you got them, you're going to hit them.
Well,
right?
it's kind of like, you got to get them within arm's length.
Yeah.
He's not a shadow boxer.
No.
Yeah.
So we're going to land a few today.
That welcoming spirit is about to change.
We're losing people, man. They're like shutting it off right now. I'm out. I'm going back and listen to crowd faithing.
Let's just talk about the pandemic. Let's go way back.
Now, this is going to be great, Bishop. This is going to be great. We were talking before the show, just kind of setting up today, and man, this is going to be an incredible discussion on morality.
Very cool.
Morals, that which is moral, that which is immoral, and that which is amoral, I believe, is how you identified it. Is that right?
That's right. It's there's 3 categories, and one of them is sort of immoral is a person or a situation where that you know what you're doing is wrong and you go ahead and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Moral is when you know something is right and you do it.
Mm-hmm.
And amoral is when you don't know or you don't care if it's right or wrong and you just do it. No, it's, there's not right or wrong. It's just whatever it is, it is.
So what you've just identified is really people, demographics. You have moral people, immoral people, and amoral people, or actions, moral actions, immoral actions, and amoral actions.
I would put it at actions because there's people. People can go either way or all three ways.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes they tag all three.
It's the category of their actions.
Right. Does motive play a role in this?
Yes. Yeah, it does. Yes, it does. Especially on the immoral. The Bible says the guy that sowed the tares, he said, an enemy hath done this.
Yes.
That was an immoral act done on purpose. Did Cain kill Abel on purpose or just
accident?
By not necessarily by accident, but just by a psychological crisis.
Another one I thought of, you were just saying about Cain. It's when David and his cohort of men find Saul in the cave. And I've always found that so interesting that his men say to David, God has put him in your hands.
Oh, for sure.
They tried to make it. They tried to make it,
Which it would appeal to the humanistic element.
Oh, yeah. Wow. This has got to be the moral thing to do.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. That is very well put.
Well, I try to keep up. I try to keep up with you guys.
What you're trying to do is get a raise from Daniel McKillop.
Yeah. What we're doing is we write it on Post-it notes and slide it to him under the camera. Thank you, Randy.
Yes, that was producer Randy. He works the Google Bible the entire episode trying to find these things.
What does amoral mean? Here, Derek.
Bishop, where did this come from?
Where this started for me was I read a book that's just recently out. It just came out a couple of months ago, called The Bomber Mafia, written by a very famous author, Malcolm Gladwell.
Yeah.
And he wrote The Tipping Point, which I considered a very good book.
Have you read his book on talking to strangers?
I haven't, but I haven't read it. Have you?
Oh, yeah. Excellent read. Sorry to interject.
That's what I'll do when I get back in from my trip to Santa Maria, which is 4 hours away. I'll get home at 3:00. I can always read from 3 to 4, and get up at 7 and go to work. Missionaries are supposed to work 24 hours a day. But anyway.
Yes, that's right.
It was like a little rant, wasn't it?
Yeah. You mean you take an hour a day off?
What?
Yeah. Well, if the prisoners at maximum prisons have the right of having a sunbath for 1 hour a day, why can't I have one?
You know what?
This is true.
Raise your hand if you think missionary Brad Lambeth needs an hour a day to read. I would support that.
Yeah.
That'd be unanimous on Kingdom Speak.
Yep. So you're reading this book.
He wrote this book, and it's an interesting book. It's not his best, but it's an interesting book about a bomb site that was invented early World War II, which was designed to be a very accurate bombing site. In other words, they put them in the airplane. They were huge. They were the size of a large suitcase. And if a plane were to crash, the orders were that the plane can do whatever you want to, but the bomb site was supposed to be destroyed because it was such a valuable instrument. And so as you approached over the target, this bombing site would allow you to precision bomb a factory or a war site, a bridge, precision bomb. And the men that were running this, the Air Force guys, they were, a lot of them were very morally inclined. They didn't want to hurt civilians, and they saw the bomb site as a moral instrument of war. It would keep
Right.
the casualties
I follow
of
you.
the civilians low. And
So it was
they
like,
tried-
can I ask you this? Was it like an optical thing where they looked into it and could zoom in on the house or whatever they were trying to attack?
I read about it before the book. I already knew about it. It has a telescope on it. And so you use a telescope to focus in on the place you're going to bomb. This is several miles away before you get there.
Okay.
And so then you adjust to the altitude, then you adjust to the temperature, then you adjust to the speed of the airplane. All of this plays in so that when you hit the button, when you're told by the bombing site to hit the button, it drops, and it will drop even though you're not over the target. The wind will take it to where it's supposed to, it was very precision.
Kind of an analytical or analog approach to what is digitally done now with heat seeking and all of that. Yeah.
There was one major defect, and it would not work with cloud cover. If there was clouds, it would work. You couldn't have the visual fix on it. And so they tried to use it. It's very sad story. They tried to use it on some major ball bearing companies or manufacturing sites of the Germans.
Okay.
And they lost because the cloud cover was wrong. And they lost 300 or 400 airmen because they got slaughtered over it. They got slaughtered.
Wow.
And so that started creating some of these ideas. Well, why should we lose 300 trying to bomb a factory without hitting civilians?
Right.
And there was something that started changing in their mind. This is what bothers me. This bothers me. Their mind started changing. And so there was two main guys in this book. The other guy's name, the moral guy, I don't even remember his name, Hoffman, I think, or Huffman. But the guy that started changing his mind, his name was LeMay. And LeMay, he was transferred to the Japanese front. And they were facing the same problem. They tried to use the bomb site, and it wouldn't work because, in the first place, they didn't know if there was clouds over the target or not because they didn't have weather radars.
Sure.
And so they would fly and they couldn't drop their bombs. And so they'd come back without dropping their bombs because they didn't want to drop them on anyone. And so this LeMay, he found out that there was these congealed gasoline bombs that were coming out.
Right.
And he ordered them. And he loaded the aircraft, and he started doing nighttime flights, which the bomb site wouldn't work because it's nighttime. And so they just fly over Tokyo. And one night, the first time he used it, his mind changed. His mind changed. His thought process. This bothers me. His thought process started changing. He said, why should we worry about civilians if we're losing our own guys?
Right.
So what we'll do is just kill anybody in order to exchange to save our guys.
Right.
And so they started bombing with gasoline bombs over Tokyo. The first night they used it over Tokyo, there was over 100,000 people that died in 16 square miles of flames.
Wow.
And he started bombing everybody at night, every city in Japan. There were more people that died from fire bombs than they died in Hiroshima from the atomic bomb.
Wow.
And so that is when morality becomes, or moral becomes immoral, because he did it deliberately. He did it knowing what he was doing.
Yes.
And so here's the problem, Pastor McKillop and Brother Derek. Here's the problem. So we're faced, is it justifiable? Here's the problem. Is it justifiable that the end justifies the means? That's what it all comes down to. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Does the end justify the means? Does it or doesn't it? That's the problem.
Wow.
Can we do things that technically may not be moral? Can we do it?
And can we do it without it affecting our minds and how we think?
That's very true.
Because we are in a warfare.
Very much so. Very much so.
So this,
wow, that's a tremendous statement. Yes, we are in a warfare. Yes,
so we're not talking about picnics in the park.
No. Why did y'all choose this subject? This stuff gets me agitated. It's true. It's true. We're can we? And so you look, and it's what being done. Is it moral or immoral?
Mm-hmm.
Is it justifiable or is it not justifiable? Remembering that, we answer in the end for what we do.
Yeah.
Sure we do.
Well, yeah, the term I'm thinking of is collateral damage.
Okay, that's a good term.
So
That's a good term.
you do what you wanted to do, but there are the unintended circumstances and consequences that.
Well, and maybe we shouldn't even say wanted. You were forced. You needed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is happening. This is unfolding the day that we're recording this, and I don't suspect it's going to be any different a week from now when we release it. But the conflict between Israel and Gaza right now. I mean, so it's easy for the Monday morning quarterback talk show host to say Israel should practice restraint.
That's good. That's good.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So go ahead.
If you want to talk about Israel, I read a thing about Israel yesterday. So they which is about a 10 or 15 story, whatever, there in the Gaza Strip. Well, what I found interesting about the story was that Israel sent a drone before they struck the building.
On that tower.
Totally.
Yeah, the infamous tower. Yeah.
And the drone dropped these mock bombs to hit up against the building to warn people this is what's going to be happening in 15 minutes from now.
Right.
Or whatever.
Well, okay. Did you see you see the footage? The footage that I saw of it had a cameraman there. His camera was set on a tripod. He's shooting with another camera, so he's got one recording the video. He didn't just happen to be at the right place at the right time. They knew that building was going down.
They knew it.
They knew
it. So Israel supposedly is trying to act within moral guidelines. Hey, we don't want to kill civilians.
Right.
They're being accused of killing them. So, that's another debate for another day. So, which is right, doing what they did or just sending rockets over to Tel Aviv and whatever and just fall where they may and happen what may happen,
Well, and here's what I heard yesterday. I believe it was Senator Ted Cruz was trying to encourage the Biden administration as an ally of Israel, trying to coax them into not alienating their ally, and saying, "Look, this is a fair to use our terms today.
Arsenal.
This is a fair moral move by America to supply Israel with the needed missiles for the Iron Dome, because they're fearful that they're going to run low. The stockpile is going to run low just because the barrage is just constant." So the statement that he made, which was fascinating to me, is that this is an easy call for the Biden administration, because the missiles that we're giving to Israel are for the Iron Dome, and they will never be pointed at people. They will always be pointed at incoming missiles. So in other words, the moral argument is that these missiles will always be used as defense mechanisms rather than an offensive military move.
Very well put. Very well put. Very well put. I mean, interesting. Here's the problem that happens at what been bothering me is the fact that the long-term consequences, which cannot necessarily be measured right now, will show up based on decisions made today will show up a week, a month, a year, 10 years from now.
For sure they will.
For sure they will.
Yeah.
And so who answers for wrong, immoral, or amoral decisions? Who answers for that?
Right, because Benjamin Netanyahu, in the case of this, is voted out, and he's gone and retired, and or for that matter, even dead. And we see this. Governments have inherited the immoral actions of previous administrations, so they have to pay out, buy out, settle.
Very well put. And so, is that or is that not happening in Pentecost today? Are we trying to speed up? And as a missionary, I face the same things. Mm-hmm. So look at me from a missionary viewpoint. Okay, so here's someone that comes up to me. We deal mainly with first generation people, people that no one in their family's ever been in church. They're the first ones that come to church. In a general sense, that's what missionary work is all about. And so they come up, they don't know Bible. They don't have a deep understanding of biblical concepts and principles and this and this and that. And so they say, can I do this? Is this kosher? Is this allowed?
Yeah.
And so I'll give you an example. I'll give you an example, which was not necessarily under my administration as per se, but I feel the consequences years and years and years and years ago. Some of the churches that we have today were founded or built up or whatever you want to put it by a missionary, a woman missionary that was in Brazil in the 60s. And we'll leave her name out of it. She's dead anyway. But okay, so this woman missionary, she on her own, she was a single woman. She just came to do something for God. And so people came up to her and they asked her, they said, do I have to pay tithe? I'm so poor. Do I have to pay tithe? I mean, if I was rich, I'd be glad to. I'm poor. I can't, I can't do it. And so she gave them exemption of not paying tithe, not giving tithe. Mm-hmm. And so, was that moral? Was that immoral? Or was she just not even knowing what she was doing amoral? In the sense of, no, you don't have to pay tithe. So she cut back on their blessings for years.
Quite possibly caused them to be cursed.
Very much. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's taken us years to undo what she's done among these family members that stayed in the church, let's say now the second generation. In their mindset, they're saying, hey, she said we didn't have to. Mm-hmm. You're saying, so you plant seeds that bring consequences that someone has to answer for.
Wow, for sure.
Are we ready for that? Do we have people? Do we have men of God? Do we have a ministry that's ready and willing to, if you really want to get your numbers up, we can always talk about television.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
So is it moral or not moral to use television to reach the lost?
Mm-hmm. Well, while you were bringing that up, okay, so we're in a warfare. That's.
I noticed that Derek is nervous because he kept on fiddling with his coat.
Yeah.
I have a question, but I'm just holding it off, actually.
Let your pastors talk.
So we've already established we're the apostolic church is in the trenches, man. Okay?
Wow.
We're in the trenches. So we've dealt with things the last 13, 14 months that at least in recent church history has been it's been unchecked, unchallenged. No, there's no manuals with do this, don't do this, don't do this. We can't even look back to, the medical community has rightly or wrongfully, and not to get derailed on that, has tried to take some of their moral compass, if you will, off of how the Spanish flu and other pandemics, global pandemics, were handled. The church, we can't look back to that. So if God tarries, which I'm not sure we've got much time, but if he does, what decisions have we deemed appropriate responses to dealing with the pandemic throughout this 13, 14 months that have been the seed beds, as you will, as you cited this lady, that when I'm dead and gone, a future church leader is having to make adjustments because of something that I maybe did ignorantly? Okay, and you brought, the reason I'm saying that is you brought up television. So a lot of churches, and we are one, we never streamed our services. We didn't utilize technology for this. It was, man, if you want it, get in underneath the shingles. This is where it's happening. Come under the roof. This is it. Our approach had to change. Oh. So is it immoral to do that? Is it immoral to use television, as you said, as a tool?
And it was attempted. If you go back to Pentecostal history in the 70s, without using the names again, it was a big issue among some organizations of whether it was kosher or not kosher to have television programs. It's complicated. It's complicated.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I get almost at loss for words. Let me give you a Bible example of what of how that a situation can quickly, people say, oh, that doesn't happen. That it's not like you say it is. There is a big Bible example. The reason why I say big, because it occupies 3 whole chapters of the Bible, of the story of Balaam and Balak.
Oh yeah.
And so
if you get all the answers to that
Balak,
story, I'm listening.
Well, ask Derek. He knows all the answers.
You guys are terrible.
Producer Randy's enjoying this because he's getting a break today.
Woo,
he's getting a break today.
Yeah. Isn't that wonderful? I'll start picking on him if you prefer.
Oh, no. This is good.
But Balak was amoral. My Lord have mercy. Balak was amoral. As a pagan king, had no notions of right or wrong. He just had something he had to take care of. Hey, these people are coming in my backyard. I need to get them cursed. So he's amoral. He has he's just got something he wants to take care of. Don't care how it happens, what it does, just whatever it takes. Let's get rid of these people. He's amoral. So he seeks out for a prophet. And this search for him for a prophet was not made in the sense that because he's a righteous man. It's just because I heard you get the job done. Let's do it. How much you want? And in the first round, Balaam is moral. Balaam is moral in the sense, these people are chosen people of God. You can't touch them. Mm-hmm. So he's moral. But as you read into the story, he starts leaning toward immoral things because he's wanting the money. He's wanting the accolades. He's wanting the fame. And he's trying to get God, one way or another, to allow him to curse these people that he doesn't even know who they are.
Wow. Wow, and you raise a very interesting point here. Money, that plays quite a role in this whole discussion, because money really is amoral. It can be used for moral things. It can be used for immoral things.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. There we go.
I mean, you can use silver and gold to drop in the cup of the guy that's at the gate beautiful, or you can use silver and gold to betray Jesus Christ.
Very well put. Very well put. Very well put. Okay. Keep that on the back burner, as some say, keep that burning on the back stove there. Okay. So if you read, this bothers me. If you read about Balaam, you notice his change from moral to immoral. Balak has nothing to do. Balak is amoral. It doesn't, hey, this is Brazilian for, I don't, anyway. So, but you notice Balaam starting to lean strongly toward money and fame.
Wow.
And God won't let him do it. God won't let him do it.
Wow.
So Balaam exits the story. And if you go and read Jude, 2 Peter, I think, Revelation, there's several mentions of Balaam.
Yeah, there is.
It says he induced them to sin. So the Jewish rabbis say that Balaam said, look, I failed in earning my money through prophecy, but I'll give you the secret of how you can destroy them and let God destroy them, which is another part of the story of what we're talking about.
Wow.
Will God destroy what he sees as immoral things? Will God step in? And, oh my gosh, Shama. And will God step in and curse us because we were willing to raise a golden calf in the valley while Moses is up on the mountain talking to God? Is the golden calf amoral, immoral, or moral?
Wow.
And so Balaam tells Balak, supposedly, hey, bring in the girls, let them do their
Fornication.
sex thing,
Yep.
And their fornication or whatever.
Yep.
And God will destroy them. And God did.
Of course.
God did. Because it was immoral.
Well, yeah, because then we're back to the discussion of fornication can never be made moral.
Right.
Wow.
Never.
My Lord, have mercy. However, you and I would have to agree that there are cases in Pentecost where they try to whitewash that to make it look more moral in order to avoid losing numbers.
Or a prophet. Yeah, and that could be a prophet.
Just going to put some crickets in here.
Yeah. That could be a prophet as in prophet or profit. Either way.
We don't want to lose either one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And did you know that Balaam, which is not very much noticed, but at the end of the book of Numbers, Balaam was killed by Israel. Balaam died at the sword of Israel, the very people that he supposedly was doing morally toward them by cursing them.
One of the fascinating things to me about that story is that he starts by highlighting, Bishop, it says that he observed them in their tents, camping according to their standard. In other words, each tribe in order. Okay,
By the book.
structured
Yep.
around the tabernacle, and he couldn't curse them, which is an interesting discussion because our standards do make a difference. So the standard was protecting the people. That clear line of Levi is here, Judah is here, all of the tribes, distinction, separation. God likes distinction.
Which,
Go ahead.
by the way, the structured structure also protected the tabernacle that was at the center.
Of course. Yes. Which I think was one of the primary objectives. It protects the glory. So what intrigues me about this, because I want to get back to what you're saying, but this just came back to me. What really intrigues me about this story is that before it's over, he is introducing to them the concept of blurring the lines. Bring the girls from outside the standard in.
Wow.
Let them become intimate. So and it's known throughout Revelations as the doctrine of Balaam.
Of Balaam. It shows up in the book. It shows up in the 7 churches of Revelation.
Exactly. So it's like the doctrine of separation and the doctrine of Balaam, which is assimilate, become intimate with it.
So you're getting to the point now from what you're discussing or what you're saying that we no longer have the option of claiming a moral situation, not knowing or caring what is right or wrong. Now we're being forced by God's manifestation of knowing exactly what God considers as moral, and yet there are still people that insist on doing immorally.
Wow. And it knows no bounds. Hophni and Phinehas are in the most holy place doing the most immoral acts.
Wow. And they tried to blur the line. Okay, let's go to them. Did they know what they were doing was wrong? Or were they acting on an amoral mindset which pushed them over into immoral action?
Okay.
That's a very confusing.
No, I get what you're saying. Let me ask you though, because before we started recording, you highlighted, if we can go back to the story of the bomber, the bomber mafia, that this guy that his thinking started shifting from, why should I be worried about killing more of them when me trying to prevent the mass casualties on their side is costing me men, then I'm just going to indiscriminately begin bombing, and amongst them be it. Doesn't matter to me.
That's exactly what he.
And but you referenced something that you said he began operating outside of the umbrella of authority without any hierarchy signing off that this indiscriminate approach to just blanket bombing Tokyo was permitted. So does that play a role in a Hophni and Phinehas who is offering strange fire? Is the fire strange because it was purple, or is the fire strange because they were not authorized to be offering it?
Ouch. Ouch. You don't want to go there, because there's situations that we're facing in Pentecost today of people that are doing things, in my opinion, unauthorized.
So that's the right action. I mean, the right action, offering fire, they do it
every day.
Well, and it's supposed to. The fire is never to go out. That's supposed to happen. But the fact that they are immoral in their approach or unauthorized in their approach makes the otherwise moral action a stench in the nostrils of God.
Wow. That right there takes your breath away.
Oh,
It's Pastor McKillop, listen. As a pastor, as a missionary, I have, quote unquote, much, and I'm going to use the word kindly, much authorization or much power to make a lot of decisions. But they scare me because I'm dealing very close to the structure of what God's church is.
right.
And I can't offer, using your words, I can't offer purple fire at the altar just because it's on sale downtown.
Yeah. The casual observer peering in may thought, I doubt they would have observed anything was wrong with the fire. It was God that.
I doubt it too. I doubt it too. I doubt it too. I think that right in their case, I think that the issue was immoral issues in the heart, which are very hard. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Very hard to notice on the outside until it's too late.
Oh God. Absolutely.
Very hard. It's very hard to notice until it's too late. Very hard to notice. You know, it's you can go through the Bible, and I gave the example of Balaam, who was dealing with an amoral king. But you can go to another amoral king. You can go to Nebuchadnezzar, and amoral Nebuchadnezzar, at least at the point that I'm referring to, he says, okay, I'm going to build this statue and play the music, and everyone bows their knee to it. Well, his use of music in that sense, in a way, his using of it is an amoral thing because he doesn't care. And if he does care, no, it doesn't matter to him. It's right or wrong to use music to make people worship you as a god.
Right. So
you have three young men who are moral enough to realize this isn't God's music. This is
because that music was ushering that entire assembly
don't go there.
into idolatry.
Don't say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't say it. You'll lose numbers.
Yeah. I think they're coming. I think the numbers are coming. No, but that's a very thing. Okay, is music in and of itself wrong? No, but then you got to ask, why are you doing it? I've had this discussion. Sadly, I'm a musician. Okay, I've had the discussion and had the privilege to be around some guys that are very talented musicians. Okay, some of them sadly have moved on, and they're no longer in the ranks of the apostolic movement.
Oh, Lord.
And I've heard them make statements like, yeah, I can get everybody shouting. Now that's problematic.
It is. Okay, what you just said, that sentence you just said, is that moral, amoral, or immoral?
I think at that point, just shooting from the cuff, I think at that point, it's kind of like, is money moral or immoral? I think it comes back to what the intention is behind it.
We're getting closer. We're getting deeper now. What is the intention behind the action is what makes it moral or immoral.
Wow, absolutely. That's it. So if I'm there, okay, let me put it all on me. So it's Tuesday night. I don't have anything really burning on me to preach. And I've got the A-line team on the platform, all of the talented guys there, and I go, we're going to shout them tonight.
Okay.
Now, unless God led that to happen, is it worship or idolatry at that? Like where the very same thing that could lead people. I'm not against shouting. We shout, man. But but at some point, if the objective is to get them to do this, the same can be to get them on their face. I heard Verbal Bean make that statement that you can You can play a guitar and just because you're in a melancholy mood. Apparently, he played the guitar. Just you can get people so depressed just because you're feeling melancholy, and it's got nothing to do with the Spirit. So I'm not talking about the beat of the drum per se or the feverish pitch. It's about why you're doing what you're doing. So music can either lead people, so I guess that'd be my answer to what you're saying, is music can either lead people to worship God or an image.
Wow. Now that is a sermon that can preach right there. But the antidote to all of that, the antidote to getting back away from immoral or immorality, is that right? Immoral issues.
Mm-hmm.
It shows up in the churches, says you have left your first love. You need to get back to your first love. If you get back to your first love, you get away from immoral and past amoral, and you get back to moral. You get back to what you really know is right and what needs to be done.
The right thing done at the wrong time or for the wrong reason can be catastrophic.
Not only catastrophic in the immediate zone, but catastrophic in generational issues is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Are we paying the piper now for decisions that were made in the 70s? I don't know.
So let me ask you this. Seeing how we're just tagging issues that potentially could be. Okay? What about evangelism?
No, you don't want to go there. You don't want to go there if you lose numbers.
Evangelism's all about numbers.
Yeah. And that's very well put. Who of us don't want a major revival? Who doesn't want
Count me in.
The Holy Ghost in one night?
Right.
Who doesn't?
Right.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? But the flip side of that is that you may pursue the 100-soul revival and ignore the necessity of discipleship after they get the Holy Ghost.
Right. Right. Especially, okay.
I'm going to Bible bomb that. Yeah, that was a pretty good. Very good, Missionary Lambeth.
Was that an authorized bomb drop? Precision?
That was precisely on the target.
Precision bombing.
No cloud cover here, boys.
Seen that one from a mile out.
Yeah. Yeah, that was precision bombing.
Okay, because if the objective is that I can bolster my social media presence amongst apostolics by the number of people I've baptized, the amount of folks that I'm praying through. But when I go to a church like that, at some point, if it's not materializing and reflecting that, then the question really does become, are we after souls or numbers?
Yeah, but there's a flip side to that. I remember distinctly, as a missionary, I get to go to a lot of churches. Now I walk in for one service and walk out. So I get to visit a lot of churches. I remember distinctly going to one church, and I got in a discussion not about moral or immoral or amoral, but I just anyway. I said, well, what's your evangelism plan? What's your outreach? He said, oh, no. This marked me as a young minister. He said, oh, no. He said, my job, this is what he told me, almost verbatim, I memorized it. He said, my job is to open the doors of the church and preach. He said, it's God's job to send people to church. If they don't come, I don't go after them.
So he didn't start a church, did he?
Now thinking about it, probably not.
He got voted in. He clearly didn't start a church.
Yeah, he got
After
voted
about
in.
6 years of preaching to pews, he got tired of that idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, but
Yeah.
in fairness, looking at this coin from every this prism from every perspective, evangelism is fraught with minefields. So I know that I'm not the only pastor that has experienced this. You bring somebody in, you work with them, you try to disciple them, and they end up running off with one of your young ladies, or if it's a young lady coming in with one of your young men, and they both backslide. So instead of saving one, you lose two.
Lose two.
So then at that point, is the safest thing for an established church just to slip into, is the moral thing for that church, a church like ours, we're here, we're good, let's just slip into survival mode. It maybe it's safer that way.
Maybe it's safer that way. Maybe it is. And it also brings people to make rules to defend their kingdom status, which really doesn't necessarily have full approval in Bible principles. Trying to make it up, and we, talking about issues or making issues major things when they may be issues you face on a local level, but we can't make it a fully approved Bible principle just because we're facing one problem in one single isolated field.
Yeah.
So you end up messing around in situations that don't belong. It's sad. It's sad, and that scares me. I want to make sure God's kingdom goes forward to the best of its intended purpose, and yet at the same time, it's also my duty to keep the church protected, like you had mentioned, by the standards around the tabernacle.
Right.
So it's a very delicate line to walk, and what we've got to be careful.
Spirit-led, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It'll be spirit-led.
Yeah.
You had a question, Brother Derek.
Oh, boy. I don't know if I want to do this or not. Okay, here we go. Do we need a break first? Are you good? Okay, here we go.
Really be bad. It must really be bad.
So in your vast experience as a global missionary pioneer.
I'm not a global.
Hey, I'm just giving honor where honor's due.
Yeah.
Have you seen instances where amoral actions or issues were given a really bad reputation and it really wasn't about the action or the issue? Do you think that happens where, so I think we talked about this maybe off the air, but someone dying can be the result of a murder, right? Which was intentional, really bad action. It could be because somebody had an accident and hit someone.
Self-defense.
It could be you defending your home. So you really can't criticize the action.
The loss of life is not always murder.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But zoning it in on the church, I want to put you in a really tough corner here to get some controversial comments, basically is what I'm going for. But
numbers.
Yes, numbers. Have you seen that transpire where maybe an issue is not really about the issue?
Yes, I have. I'm just trying to think of something that would be clear that I could state, that would. Yes,
while you're thinking, I know we've talked about this in a few episodes about streaming, and how the use of technology has got a really bad rap.
So
right?
let me throw this out, Bishop. Maybe this is one. Why do you allow your church to utilize the internet, but you do not allow them to have television? Would that be one?
I know that's a red hot issue.
I'm just asking to highlight.
That's hard to answer.
Yeah.
That's hard to answer. I get, if we're answering the question, what's the difference between television and internet? Technically, there really isn't much of a difference.
Yeah, the only thing that I would say, and this is what I think this discussion highlights.
We're here right now on internet.
Yeah, no, that's right. Exactly.
And not on television.
Right.
And not on television.
Right. I think if anything, though, it comes back to this: the medium has got to be controllable. So
that's a good point. Yeah.
So I would venture to say that the internet in and of itself could be a lot more dangerous than, but it's more controllable. So it's kind of back to like when the Bible says you either have to make the tree good or make it evil. I think the difference as it relates to television is that it's a whole lot more difficult to control the fruit of it than it is for you to control the fruit of the internet.
Very well put.
So it's kind of like going to a buffet and the guy is feeding you versus you taking a spoon and going, I'll take this and this and this, and you can hold asparagus, please.
Very well put.
So if you can make it good, it's amoral.
Well, that comes back to the discussion of morality, moral, immoral, amoral.
Yes.
Can you make it good?
That makes sense.
Okay. Based on what you're saying, is television totally neutral or does it have a life of itself? Is internet neutral or does it have a life of itself?
Well, I think, go ahead.
For example, one of the things I wrote down in my notes here, we're coming into an era of robots.
Yeah.
And robots technically are neutral. In other words, they do what they're told to do or they're programmed to do. But now with artificial intelligence coming onto the scene, they're taking on a life of their own self. So how far do you use a robot and how far do you keep a robot out of your life? That will be a question for 2 years from now. If the Lord hasn't come, we can come back and talk of whether robots are sin or not.
Because there is a discussion, and I've had this discussion of robots, and I'm trying to be as careful for our audience's sake, but that their intention is for immoral purposes.
Yes, it is.
So
yes, it is.
Someone is intimate with them.
Yes.
But they're not intimate with their neighbor's wife.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Is intimacy with robots adultery?
Well, there we go.
Brother Derek has the answer for that.
Things I never thought I would hear on this podcast. But hey, I asked the question, right?
You brought it up.
You're the one that brought it up.
Okay, but back to the discussion, because I mean, if we roll back 100 years or 80 years, it was about radio.
It was.
And I'm sure it got a bad rap at the time.
Right. I can remember growing up when we were just beginning to go to arenas to play hockey instead of playing sports arenas, instead of playing outdoors. And why? Well, just up to that, you could never control the entire atmosphere of the arena. You always had to go, and it demanded that you were intimate and interacted with elements that you could not control, whether it be the music they played, the atmosphere, okay? Then it switched. Now we're renting the whole structure. We control the atmosphere. We've got the Chuck Wagon gang blaring, and we're having a great time. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with the building. It's a matter that's an amoral institution. If you can make it good.
Wow.
So I think the struggle is I don't know. Can you make Hollywood good? I think the answer is no.
In the end, our discussion for the last 47 minutes, which y'all are running out of time, because at 1 hour I start charging overtime.
Okay.
It's time to wrap it up, producer Randy.
All right. Cue the music.
But in the end, the real discussion is about amoral things which tend to turn to moral or immoral. And we're having a difficult time of controlling amoral things and turning them into moral things, where there's others that are turning them into immoral things.
Okay, so is this part of the solution to this? Does it come back to what you said the general in Tokyo was operating outside the sphere of his authority?
Yes.
Does authority within the local autonomous church, the man of God, does he not, through being spirit-led, help keep the sideboards, the guardrails on the highway?
I think that is the job of the fivefold ministry, if never before, certainly now. Wow. I really do. I really do.
What a responsibility.
I think yes. And I think we're navigating waters. It's sort of like Paul. Lord have mercy. It's sort of like Paul on the boat. And the storm, he said, don't do it. And it was done. And it became a storm. And it required a man of God to turn the storm into salvation.
Well,
so do we have a strong enough ministry that can help us navigate amoral issues toward, oh my God, have mercy, amoral issues toward morality or toward moral,
and towards moral benefits. Okay, I think.
Okay, there we go.
I think that
we have a ministry that's strong enough to guide us to moral benefits and help us avoid the immoral damage.
Yes,
that's what it all boils down to. Do we have a ministry strong enough for that? And I say we do. I say we do.
I say we do too, and that's why I'm saying I don't think we need to go back to the discussion of television. That's fought and won. I believe that, dare I say this, we ready for controversy? Could it be that God has given us a tool like the internet that is more manageable, that can be pulled morally the right direction? That we can begin propagating the gospel, evangelism efforts, missional efforts.
Podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you only have that option, or you avoid everything that's amoral.
Right. And if you're going to do that,
how do you do that?
If you're going to do that,
that's a strong one. That's a strong one.
And can you?
Well, and where do you stop with that? Because a vehicle can be used to bring people to church. A bus can be brought to bring people to church, or you can go to Las Vegas or New York City and see the party buses going down the road with every immoral act. So at what point do you isolate it? You got to move out of your home, sell the car.
Sell the bus.
Yeah, it's a challenge, because otherwise we'll end up back at the cave. And when you're back at the cave, you can't save the world.
Oh.
No, and you struggle with suicide, because that's what happened with Elijah.
Exactly. You're so far isolated, you don't have anybody around you.
Right.
Yeah.
So in the midst of all of this, and Bishop, you've done such an incredible job of highlighting it, but amongst the immoral perils and potholes and pitfalls, there's incredible opportunities for the church.
Incredible opportunity. And if oh Lord have mercy. We need ministry that has vision and at the same time is morally cautious.
Well said. Well said.
And if we can find a fivefold ministry that's got vision and yet morally cautious, we can take advantage of certain amoral things and make them useful to the kingdom. The question is, do we have enough courage to walk away from what we need to walk away and to embrace what we need to embrace? That's the question. And in that sense, I beg for your help. I want to be fully used of God without selling out my soul like Balaam did. You know, missionaries are under a lot of number pressure.
Sure. Sure. I can understand that. Yeah.
Because they want you to produce results.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. But the seek for numbers cannot be at the cost of birthing Frankensteins.
I can totally see that.
Wow.
Because you're under so much pressure to try to get the right result. You do the wrong thing.
Wrong thing.
Wow.
It's easy to overlook certain situations, especially as a missionary where there's really not anyone looking over your shoulder all that much, where that you can hide behind language barriers and you can, do your own thing in your native language, and your leader, your elder doesn't really if you lean. Balaam, my God, Balaam heard God's voice time after time after time. And yet, when he should have heard God's voice, he spoke with his own voice and saying, bring the girls on.
Wow. Wow.
That's scary. And those of y'all that are listening, I beg you in the Holy Ghost, if you don't pray for anybody else, pray for me. I don't want, after hearing God's voice, I don't want to listen to my own voice and use, if you go back to Balaam, is sex illicit? No, it's not. If it's in the structure of marriage, go and multiply.
Right.
Sex is illicit when it becomes leaning toward perversion.
Absolutely.
That's scary.
And as you've so rightfully said, Bishop, really, this is where accountability amongst brethren is necessary within a church setting. You got to have somebody that can talk to you to keep you balanced.
Yeah.
Thank you for being that voice for me.
Well, you've been more to me than I have to you, so I guess we're not even, but at least I'm coming out ahead. So,
wow. That's been incredible today, Bishop.
It's been great.
Incredible.
Sure has. I think we'll have you back sometime.
Let me, to close, to say my goodbye, I remembered a story my father told me. And it may have, of course, Dad's gone now. I understood it to be, it happened to Dad, to my father. It may not have, but I understood it to have happened to my father. My father went to a Bible school in the States when he was young. And he had a roommate there at that Bible school. And my father was talented with music, but this roommate was incredibly talented with music. He was one of those, what you had mentioned, these top musicians. And as time went along, this other young man started moving from moral to amoral to immoral, and eventually left out of the Bible school and went to start playing in nightclubs because there was money there. Mm. And so, is musical talent useful in God's kingdom? Yes, it is. Is good musical talent useful in God's kingdom? Yes, it is. is good musical talent worth the price if it leans over into immorality? No, it's not.
Right.
Well, my father said that the last time he heard about this good friend that he had as a roommate, he was playing in a nightclub. And according to the person that told him, said he played in the nightclub playing the piano, and he had a monkey that sat on the piano. And so it was sort of a clickbait thing, you know, the monkey people come up and put tips at the piano for him playing in the nightclub. The guy came up to him and told him and said, "Hey, do you know that your monkey's got his tail in your beer?" And the guy was so drunk, and he said, "Well, if you can hum the tune, I can sing it." You know, thinking that the guy was asking for a song of the monkey with the tail and the beer.
Wow.
He was so far out. He was so far out. He couldn't understand what was being said to him. I don't want a nightclub ministry.
Wow.
I want to be led by God.
Wow.
I need preaching to keep me moral and not allow me to become immoral. God bless you, man. Enjoyed it.